What's good, people? Lucky Lefty podcast, the ONORA boys will be in the building shortly. Left is swerving through LA traffic trying to get home. Brought to you by ONORA Whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. It's that premium American whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. And if you drink, by all means, make sure you do so responsibly. You got to do it responsibly. You know what I'm saying? CFB Nation, that's where we're hosted. Presented by Twisted Tea. A smooth and melodic right here on a Thursday night. Man, have you guys seen this transfer portal, man? Like, Notre Dame is active, but boy, oh boy. Woo! You talk about the Wild Wild West. It's crazy. We'll get to, look, Aldrich Estimé says goodbye, right? Along with Joe Alt, Blake Fisher. But that cat Riley Mills says, I got one more in me. That cat Jack Kaiser says, I got one more in me. So this defense might not be as young and green as we think next year. Oh boy. We're going to talk about this defense and whether or not they can up the ante against a less challenging schedule, even with the unknowns. Right now, I think we would all agree that the 2024 schedule in comparison to the 2023 schedule is not as rigorous as some might say. And then we're going to talk about the breaking news that Jamal Banks, Wake Forest wide receiver, is going to be visiting Notre Dame. Could he be that third addition via the transfer portal at the wide receiver position? Go to YouTube right now, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and like the videos, man, because it helps us out. We appreciate it, right? But most of all, check out the poll question of the day, the LL poll question of the day. If you didn't get over YouTube, then you might as well go ahead and give your answer in the chat. Who will be the best player for the Fighting Irish in 2024? Who will be the best player for the Fighting Irish in 2024? Your options are Riley Leonard, Benjamin Morrison, Xavier Watts, Jeremiah Love, or other. Once again, Riley Leonard, Benjamin Morrison, Xavier Watts, or Jeremiah Love. Dude, I am shocked. I am shocked at who is leading in this vote right now. It is crazy, and it is by a wide margin, a much wider margin. Because I put this person in the options because I knew people would have high expectations. But at 43%, Jeremiah Love is like running away with this vote. Notre Dame fans really, really think that this young man is going to be the cat's meow for the Fighting Irish next year. Good gracious. It is incredible. Matter of fact, I see my boy Ryan Roberts in the chat. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and jump in with me, bro? Go ahead and jump in with me. Let's have some fun. Malik's going to be in a little late, LA traffic. But yo, I would love for my guy Double R. We'll be doing the recruiting show tomorrow. And I believe Carson's Corner is going to be back. That cat Carson Hobbs is absolutely hilarious, bro. He's hilarious. I love that kid. I love that kid. Ryan Roberts dropped a clip from his interview on his page. And yo, I was dying laughing. He is, see, this kid, the reason I love this kid is because he is the type of kid that gets under your skin if you're a teammate, but you absolutely love him. Right? Maybe some of you guys have like family members that are like that. Anybody have a family member like that where they get under your skin, but you absolutely love them? That's that cat Carson Hobbs, man. That's that cat Carson Hobbs. So let me tell you guys a story, man, of what we're actually going on tonight. And we didn't hit you guys this morning at 11 o'clock. My sister calls me last night and she says, brother, I'm moving tomorrow. Can you please help me move? First of all, I'm like, why did you wait until the day before to hit me up? Like, man, let me know so I can clear my schedule. I said, but it's cool. I can do some things differently and move the schedule around, right? I said, I'm going to be over there early because my show is at 11. She says, okay, cool. I get over to her condo. She's moving to a new condo and do maybe a 15-minute trip to the new condo. She doesn't have that much stuff. So I'm thinking, let me get over here. My nephews are there. Knock this out. Get back. Do the 11 o'clock show. Make it happen, right? Man, I get over here. I walk in and she is just now putting stuff in boxes, taping boxes. And I'm looking like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, you just started packing up this place. And when I tell you, man, you talking about somebody getting under your skin. This is that sister that gets under my skin because her mouth is just like 100 miles per hour, right? So a 2 to 3 hour project turns into a forever project. Left was waiting on me all day, and then he had to go pick up the kids. Yeah, bro. She got me, bro. She got me. And on top of that, I paid for lunch for her and my nephews. Then I finally got home about what, 6 something. Said I'm not gonna rush the show. Got something to eat. Hit left. He was like, yo, I'm en route to the crib. And so here we are, 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. But I'm here because I love you guys. So that's what's up. Give me let's get to the bag right now. Your GTV questions, load them up right now. Load them up right now. K-Mac, I appreciate that, man. I think I'm a good dude, but man, if I faked her out, moms would have hit me on the hip real fast. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So, man, Marcel, you can understand. Man, it's amazing. So let's talk about this poll question as you guys get to the bag with your comments and your questions, and then we'll get to that. And then we'll get into a little bit of Riley Mills and Jack Kaiser and what that could possibly mean for the defense. Um, it's imperative because I thought the poll question was interesting, right? And I thought it was interesting because, the majority of time, and this is not always true, but the majority of time in football, at every level, the quarterback is viewed as the best player on the team. So I was intrigued to see after Riley Leonard joined the Fighting Irish, how many of the Notre Dame fan base, how many people would consider him the best player on the team next year. And currently, I think Riley Leonard is running third in the voting, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he's running neck and neck with Xavier Watts right now. Third in the voting. Benjamin Morrison sits at 25%. Jeremiah Love, that's updated, is at 42%. Benjamin Morrison is at 24%. Riley Leonard is at 16%, and Xavier Watts is at 13%, and 4% says other. And then if you think it's somebody else, put it in the chat. If you believe the best player on the squad is going to be somebody besides the names that are aforementioned, that are the options in the poll, let me know. Let me know. All right, let me start these questions so I don't miss them as the chat continues, guys. Give me a second. All right, I got you guys. So that's very interesting to me that Riley Leonard is running third. seeing that he's the quarterback, seeing the type of guy he is coming from Duke with plenty of promise, plenty of talent. I wouldn't say plenty of skill. It's a difference between talent and skill. I think his skill can be upgraded. I think that's going to be on Gino Gaduli and Jared Parker to help improve his skill, which is something I think he probably wants to improve upon to improve his status and give him a better chance of going high in the first round in the 2024 25 draft. So I just think the vote right now is very interesting. And maybe the vote is representative of the caution that Notre Dame fans are showing with Riley Leonard because of Sam Hartman and how the season played out, which honestly is understandable. Uh, it's not fair. Well, it is fair because it's understandable. Like, I understand why people would be slow to jump on the same Heisman bandwagon that people jumped on when it came to Sam Hartman. So uh, I get it. I get it. But yo, Benjamin Morrison has a lot of love, dude. And I think that's incredible. I was watching Ryan Roberts today, and I think Ryan Roberts, if I'm not mistaken, said if Benjamin Morrison had come out this year, that he would have been a late first round, early second round pick. And I think the one thing he said Benjamin Morrison needs to improve upon is the physicality of the game, like playing through contact and coverage, and then also coming up and run support, right? And we've seen that. We've seen Benjamin Morrison. I don't know if people have literally hit the truck stick on him, but I've seen them like lower their heads and kind of, force Benjamin Morrison to kind of hold on for dear life. Uh, but it's very interesting, guys. Is that Riley Leonard? Does Riley Leonard need to be the best player? So now here's the next question based upon the poll. Does Riley Leonard need to be the best player on the team for Notre Dame to make the playoffs and advance in the playoffs? I'll give you guys a few seconds. Does Riley Mills, not Riley Mills, I just saw somebody type Riley Mills. Does Riley Leonard need to be the best player on the team in 2024 in order for Notre Dame to make the playoffs and advance in the playoffs? Let me know. While you guys load up your responses, man, it was great to see two veterans, Riley Mills, defensive tackle, and also Jack Kaiser, put out that they're coming back for one more campaign with the Fighting Irish in 2024. One of the things we worried about with this defense is that it would be extremely talented, but yet green, right? Back end would be okay. If I had to bet, I would say it's about 65-35, in my opinion, as Xavier Watts returns. And if Xavier Watts returns with Benjamin Morrison, Jaden Mickey, Christian Gray, the back end is going to be pretty good, right? But now you got Howard Cross and Riley Mills return, right? You have the young guys at defensive tackle also showing flashes, getting better, another offseason getting stronger, which the strength and conditioning coach is paramount. Paramount. Three names have come to the forefront. You can go to Irish Breakdown. I believe there is a discussion on the New Champions Lounge where Brian Driscoll kind of gave three guys strength strength guy from Alabama, strength who's from Indiana and has ties to the Indiana South Bend area. The Wisconsin strength and conditioning coach, who Marcus Freeman, of course, is familiar with, has a relationship with. And Mike Brown, the new wide receiver coach, just came from there. And then I think the other guy is from Pitt, if I'm not mistaken. So those are three names to watch when it comes to strength and conditioning coach. And talking to some people, heard good things about all of those guys, right? I know. Are we gonna get another Cincinnati guy, another guy connected to the Marcus Freeman, Luke Fickletree? Hey, only time can tell, right? I know the guy from Alabama. Immediately when you hear Alabama, like your ears perked up, right? Like, oh my God, we can get somebody that's actually on the Alabama staff. I mean, you know what? That actually would be a pretty good trade. Like, you guys got Tommy, send us that guy and let's roll out. You guys got Tommy, send us that guy and let's roll out. The defense is going to be, and I said this before the announcements, I really thought the defense had a chance to really be more than solid, be more impactful, and have more sacks, more tackles for loss. Now, with the addition of RJ Oben, who I think is an upgrade on JBB, in my opinion, more in his repertoire, a little bit more twitchier with the same power, right? So let's say that is the case, and that transitions to the field, right? And then you get some of the other guys, right? I see Junior Tuilamaka moves, to big end away from Viper. And let's say, Boubacar Traore takes that step. Josh Burnham takes that step at Viper. They continue to use Jalen Sneed at Viper. We just have so many options, man. So many options and depth. Now, I will say this. Jack Kaiser was the backup middle linebacker when Bertrand went down. Both times JD Bertrand went down, Jack Kaiser was the middle linebacker. If Jack Kaiser's coming back, I do not want him to come back. Drake Bowen needs to be the middle linebacker. It's going to be very interesting to see this season if you feel more comfortable going into the bowl game with Jack Kaiser as the backup or the guy that's going to be taking snaps at middle linebacker. Okay. But when the calendar flips, Drake Bowen needs to be your guy because he needs to get used to being the captain of that defense, right? Even if he doesn't have a C on his chest, if you're the middle linebacker, dude, people are looking at you on defense. You are one of the commanders of that defense when it comes to communication and getting everybody lined up. Give that responsibility and give time to Drake Bowen to establish himself in that responsibility in all season. Now, of course, it should be earned. It should be earned. I'm not saying just hand him the job, but I mean, if he's the next guy up, he should get the first opportunity at the middle linebacker position. He should absolutely get the first opportunity. So that's something that is that's something that bears watching. Hold on, just texting with left. So after the bowl game, Drake Bowen needs to be that dude. If you want to put Jack Kaiser at one of the other positions, we want to have him at Rover. Jack Kaiser, the benefit of having Jack Kaiser come back is that he's played all positions. He's played all positions, right? He is phenomenal, in my opinion, as a Rover. Phenomenal. Put him there, right? But as far as Drake Bowen, if he's going to be that dude, let him be that dude. I understand why you might not want to throw him into the fire this season, and you wanted to get him some more reps on the field without him having to have the responsibility of communicating and calling everything, even though Al Golden has publicly said he trusts him in that area. You want to save him. Give him a full off season to really become acclimated in that area. Totally fine with that. Totally fine with that. But when the calendar flips, man, Drake Bowen should be the guy at that position. He should absolutely be the guy, right? Nolan Ziegler. I mean, they're going to battle it out in the spring. They're going to battle it out in the spring. Nolan Ziegler is going to be somebody to watch. If you saw the video, this dude was on the treadmill running like 21 miles per hour. It's good to see him back healthy, physically and mentally as well. Yo, that adds depth. Jay Nosberry. People, this is a young man that could really take off next year. This is a young man that can really look. I was blessed to be able to go to spring. Didn't get to see the practices in the fall. But when I was there in the spring, it was obvious that the most instinctive linebackers were Jaden Osbury and Drake Bowen. Now you add Kingston into the mix because Kingston is uber talented, crazy instincts, right? But it's Al Golden's defense, which has been simplified since his first season as defensive coordinator, but it still has its complexities. It still has its complexities. So KVA gets there in January. Can he catch up or catch the veteran guys by the time the spring comes around to where he just walks on the field and his talent takes over? That's going to do. That middle linebacker position or the linebacker position in general is going to be the most fun I'm going to do. Because usually defensive backs, when we go as a staff and we're watching practices, defensive backs and wide receivers are my assignment. Defensive backs and wide receivers. Dude, I might ask to be reassigned to the linebackers. That's how intrigued I am by the competition, the depth, and the talent at that position, and what could end up being an absolute monster spring of competition at Notre Dame. If there was one spring, I would go out and bring the best linebackers in the country from the class of 25 and the class of 26 to watch practices. It would be this year because everybody's going to be flying around. Everybody, right? And if the freshmen that 25 and 26 recruits would be watching is KVA, man, let the good times roll. Absolutely let the good times roll. So Jack Kaiser coming back is so beneficial, man, because we were going to be short of leadership. Jack Kaiser gives you leadership at the linebacker, the second level. On the back end, Ben Morrison is a quiet leader. Xavier Watts is probably a little bit more vocal. So you have leadership back there. And then with Howard Cross and Riley Mills up front, now you have leadership on every level of the defense. Every level of the defense. Every single level of the defense. So I am super excited for what's to come. And Riley Mills and Kaiser are huge retentions for this Notre Dame defense on and off the field, right? And once again, if Drake Bowen is given the keys, I would much rather he have somebody like Jack Kaiser that's actually done it next to him while he's becoming acclimated or having the keys at the middle linebacker position. That's absolutely fantastic. We get the combination guys of Riley Mills and Howard Cross once again If you go look, they are the hockey assist in college football. What I mean by that, you go to Pro Football Focus and look at the pressures that they were able to put forth from a statistical standpoint and where they rank. I believe they can get better. And you know why they can get better? Because that position is getting deeper. Jason Onye is going to take a step forward, right? So now they can go hard on reps because they should have more trust in guys like Jason Onye, Donovan Heinisch, Sean Sevillano Jr., and all the Gabriel Rubio and the rest of the guys, Devin Houston, and everybody else that's coming up at that position, right? Yo, those youngsters should be nice undergirding for what Riley Mills and Howard Cross should be able to do. So with those two guys coming back, I expect huge, huge things from the Notre Dame defense, right? At least to level off and stay at the same level. I don't expect a dip. We'll see. I do expect teams to attack them in the run game early and then challenge them in pass coverage as well. But that's a more athletic linebacker group. So they should be able to cover in the passing game a little bit more. And if these linebackers can cover, because Al Golden did a lot to cover up for the linebackers not being great in coverage. If these young linebackers can cover, which I believe they can cover much better than the linebackers we had, now Al Golden can really go into his trick bag, really get aggressive, right? You get a kid like Jaden Ausberry who can just flat out go take a tight end out the game, or you don't have to worry about wheel routes. And the wheel route has really hurt Notre Dame, I would say, for the last 2 to 3 seasons, man. That wheel route has really hurt Notre Dame in certain games. But when you get linebackers that are really athletic, that should be able to solve some issues and open up Pandora's box and allow Al Golden to get in his bag, man. He's already in his bag, but good grief. If you think if Al Golden gets linebackers that can cover with defensive backs that can cover and safeties like Xavier Watts mixed in with, one of the youngsters, Adon Schuler, or one of the other youngsters at safety, man, if you think he liked the blitz this year, oh, he's probably gonna just, man, go balls out. Just crazy. Now, Audric Estimé says his goodbye. And it's funny because we had a poll. And the poll question, if I'm not mistaken, let me pull it up because I want to see how the numbers, the people, you guys still vote like weeks after the poll has ended and we've discussed it. Here it is. This was from 3 weeks ago. Where does Audric Estimé rank in the all-time running back list at Notre Dame? Top 3, top 5, top 10, number 1. The majority of you guys had him top 10 or either top 5. Now, with that being said, how much of a loss is Audric Estimé in your opinion? How much of a loss? Because it seems like the response to social media was very much congratulatory. There's no real beef about him opting out of the bowl game, even though he's not about to get drafted in the first round, maybe late second, third round, if I'm not mistaken. But for the most part, Notre Dame fans have been very congratulatory towards Audric Estimé. No real beef about him opting out of the game. Nothing but respect for what he's given to the program, and nothing but love for what he's given to the program. And with that being said, Um, yeah, I'm gonna miss Seven. I'm gonna miss Seven. He was fun to watch. I remember the first time I saw him on the practice field, and I remember hitting Brian Driscoll like, "Yo, for this dude to be this big, he has some really, he's really light on his feet. He has some great feet, and I think he got better as a runner. He improved every year as a running back, right? I think Logan Diggs might have been the better running back last year all around. And I think Aldrich kind of took the challenge once Logan Diggs transferred that he was going to be that dominant guy. And I can nitpick with certain things, but I'm not. I'm not going to take anything away from his day. He deserves the respect and the congratulations that he's getting from the fan base. And yo, I hope he performs well at the combine, Senior Bowl, Pro Day, whatever he's involved in. Man, my prayers, eternal blessings, and eternal favor. And a huge thank you from all Irish fans, Lucky Lefty podcast, and myself personally. He's a yes, I agree totally. Tex Indy, he is a great steward of Notre Dame football, and I'm gonna miss the big fella. I'm definitely going to miss the big fella, man. But on the field, I don't know if he's gonna be missed that much. Yo, with the talent that's gonna be in that running back room, I don't know if yeah, I don't know if he's gonna be missed that much. And maybe that's one of the reasons why fans are like, or part of the reason fans are like, thank you, big guy. We appreciate you. Thank you. We appreciate you. And so, would I love to watch him one more time in the Sun Bowl? Absolutely. Absolutely. But hey, and Garrett, hey, yes, Chris, not Chris Guerin, Newton, he probably will skip the 40 at the pro day. Um, but hey, he has so much tape running away from defenders, North Carolina State, Duke, other games. He's shown that once he gets into the open, he has enough speed to break big runs. He has that, so it'll be up to him whether or not he wants to go ahead and I would love to see him in Chicago, man. I really would. He would be a great compliment to Khalil Herbert, who's been injured most of this year, but he led the NFL in yards per carry last year for the Chicago Bears. So having that speed back in Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson is the power back, more the power back, but he's nowhere near as big as Aldrich Estimé. And the Bears struggle. Even though Deontay Foreman has kind of stepped into that place, the Bears struggle with short yardage. And it will be fun to see that big fella with the C on the side of his helmet. And I'm sure all Notre Dame fans, whoever you cheer for across this country and across this nation in the NFL, I'm sure you would love to see Aldrich Estime putting your team's helmet on as well at the running back position. That's just the type of player and a young man he's been at Notre Dame that I think all of us will want to see him um, on our NFL squad. And then last but not least, Blake Fisher, perfect world. Okay, he could have come back. Joe Alt had no chance. Dude, we knew Joe Alt was leaving last off season. Like, I knew the Gator Bowl was the last bowl game I would ever see Joe Alt in. I knew that last December. So um, that wasn't shocking, right? Shout out to JD Bertrand. Originally, he got the Shrine Bowl invitation. Now he received the Senior Bowl invitation, and more than likely will be going to the Senior Bowl. So congratulations to that young man. But if there was one person that I would beg to come back if I had the opportunity, and you know what? That's the second LL question of the day. If there was one player that you could beg, you had 5 minutes to beg this young man to give Notre Dame one more season, who would it be? Here's the kicker, though. Here's the kicker. Before you type in your answers, here's the kicker. You can't choose Joe Alt. You can't choose Joe Alt. If you have 5 minutes to sit with a guy and say, yo, come back, who would it be? Joe Alt is not an option because that cat, Joe Alt, you have no shot convincing Joe Alt to come back. I'm trying to be realistic. I believe Cam Hart is out of eligibility. All right, so Jamal Banks, wide receiver from Wake Forest, made it known that he will be visiting Notre Dame this weekend, right? And if you watch the Wake Forest game against Notre Dame, you know that he's a lefty, and you know that he has a pretty good arm. You know that double reverse or that reverse pass that they ran to lead to an eventual score in the first half. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they ended up tying the game at 7 on that drive uh, with a 9-yard touchdown by the running back, and he threw a very nice pass on that reverse pass. And so we know he's an option for passing the ball on a trick play. He is 2023 preseason Athlon first team All ACC, preseason Field Steel third team All ACC, and 2022 All ACC honorable mention with Sam Hartman as his quarterback. Uh, Very talented man. He loves contested catches. If you go watch his highlights, contested catches, he gets it done. 59 receptions on the year. That would have led Notre Dame 653 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's 11 yards clip per catch. And the quarterback situation at Wake Forest was tumultuous, to say the least, right? He's improved steadily. He only had 1 reception as a freshman, 5 as a sophomore, improved in his junior year to 42 receptions. He had more yards per catch with Sam Hartman as well. He had more touchdowns. He had 9 touchdowns with Sam Hartman in 22 and had 15 yards per reception. So, who are you going to get now with Riley Leonard with a better quarterback than he had this year, where his yards per catch went down and his touchdown production went down? So he's a very intriguing prospect in the transfer portal. Very intriguing. I watched him. I like his physicality. 6'4", 205. That right there within itself. You get Bo Collins as a big body, and you come back with this guy, and it seems like he was a big time red zone touchdown producer when he had Sam Hartman, and that kind of took a step back with the young quarterbacks that they had this year, both of the young quarterbacks. And I think Wake Forest went through, and Dave Clawson went through 3 quarterbacks this year, if I'm not mistaken. So Notre Dame could be getting a red zone specialist in Jamal Banks if they can seal the deal and if he's the right fit. It seems like the ship might have sailed on Josh Kelly, which I think all of us would have loved for Chris Mitchell, Bo Collins, and Josh Kelly to have been the 3 receivers that Notre Dame was able to lock down in the transfer portal. That trio would have been absolutely amazing for the program to get. But if it ends up being Chris Mitchell, Bo Collins, and Jamal Banks, it is really a nice recovery from the firing of Chancey Stuckey, having to find Mike Brown as your new wide receiver coach, and the receivers that were lost in the transfer portal with Rico Flores, Chris Tyree, who's at Virginia now. Shout out to you, young man. Hope you have great success next year. Braylon James and Tobias Merriweather. Great recovery. Great recovery. Cam Williams, super exciting. Can't wait to get on campus, man. I'm supposed to actually link up with Cam over the Christmas break and chop it up with him at one of his favorite spots out there by the crib. So it should be pretty interesting, to say the least, to see how things play out with this visit with Jamal Banks. And I'm sure Riley Leonard is going to be there. It's going to be a great weekend. Notre Dame, the one thing I love is that Notre Dame is taking advantage and learned from what we saw Georgia and Alabama do. They got a lot of, I think, Justice Haynes, Caleb Downs, and I think there was one more Alabama freshman that actually took part in practices, bowl practices with Alabama last year. They actually took part in bowl practices. And that, yo, man, I think the benefits were because Justice Haynes was definitely the third running back and was actually getting carries towards the end of the year. So, those bowl practices, I think CJ Carr is taking part in some bowl practices. Notre Dame has some of his possible 25 commits, I'm sorry, coming to practices. Notre Dame is kind of catching up and taking advantage of the exposure of the bowl practice, not only to incoming freshmen, but also some guys that could be committing to the program in the 25 class, which we're literally a week away from National Signing Day. Everything step away from the ledge. This class is intact. I feel a lot more comfortable with this class a week away from signing day than I did with the 23 class a week away from signing day. Far more comfortable. All right. Everybody's locked in. I think they're on their third Zoom meeting. They had a third Zoom meeting over the last 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. The Notre Dame coaching staff has been on the road this week. They've been seeing 24 commits, but they've also been going to see, they were in Chris Mitchell's home recently, right? Which is funny because John Mitchell, Chris Mitchell's younger brother, had a visit from the Penn State staff, if I'm not mistaken, like shortly before Notre Dame showed up, or the day before Notre Dame showed up to check on Chris Mitchell. So um, it's hot and heavy, man. This is the new norm, right? The mixture of National Signing Day along with the transfer portal and everything that's going on crazy. It's absolutely amazing. Um, so there you have it. I think, Mitch Jeter, the kicker from, at first I thought I had to go look at the highlight. I thought he was the one that actually threw the touchdown from that funky formation when South Carolina lined up originally to kick a field goal and then motioned out to that funky formation, but he was actually split out. And I believe it was the punter that threw the touchdown on that play. And where South Carolina, I think, took the lead 14-7 in that game at that point in time. So Mitch Jeter, who has been very consistent at South Carolina, very consistent. His stats were more consistent than Schrader before he transferred to Notre Dame. So statistically, we're getting a guy that is like 90%, mid 90% consistent. I don't know if he has as strong as a leg as Schrader, but Mitch Jeter, Marty Biaggi got his guy in the transfer portal for Notre Dame. Sid Irish, I couldn't agree with you more, my brother. And man, I like your Blue Devils this year. I really do. I love Filipowski. I love Proctor. And I love their freshmen. I love their freshmen. Looking forward to seeing how they develop and how they play in ACC play. But I'm very intrigued. I think Proctor and Filipowski would definitely be lottery picks come this summer. So we'll see. And of course, you know, Duke always has to have a Chicago connection at the head coach, right? Coach K, Chicago, his predecessor, Chicago, because we know how to hoop. We know how to hoop. We know what basketball is all about, baby. Lucky Lefty podcast. Yo, NC Notre Dame fan, you talking that trash already? One of the greatest rivalries in all the sports. Duke, North Carolina. NC Notre Dame fan talking trash already. No, San Diego State, man, is one of those teams because of their style of play. Um, the big guy that transferred to Arizona, that's a huge loss. Johnson, I think his last name is. I think his last name is Johnson. That was a huge loss for you guys at San Diego State. A huge loss. If they had kept him and continued to add via the transfer portal like they do, and Bryant, he does a heck of a job. That coach does a heck of a job. Heck of a job recruiting to his style of play. So I think San Diego State will be okay. Will they make a championship run? Man, never met. Because heck, it took a lot. They had a lot of moments towards the end of games to get to the Final Four and a championship game. Yeah, he was a big time loss to Arizona. Absolutely was, man. If you watch that matchup that they had at Cameron Indoor, he made some big time plays in that game to allow Arizona to leave Cameron with that victory over Duke. So, man, I'm getting ready to watch my Illini take on Missouri and bragging rights coming up this weekend. You know, doesn't get any better than that. My boy, Coach Vic, if you're not on here, I'm sure you're going to be watching. So you and I will be doing some trash talking this weekend. Bragging rights, St. Louis, Scott Trade, Illinois, Missouri. Illinois is solid. It's solid. It's solid. Northwest, let me tell you something, man. People need to recognize the job that Chris Collins is doing, because if you missed it, Chicago State went up to Welsh Ryan last night and defeated Northwestern 75-73. I keep telling people, man, Chris Collins is an incredible. Somebody needs to come fetch Chris Collins. Chris Collins does an incredible job because his team is not that talented, man. They're not that talented. And on an off night, they can lose to a team like Chicago State. But he has them coached and developed so well that they can go out and beat a number 2 ranked Purdue like they already have in Big Ten play. So salute. That game last night showed me, yo, this cat Chris Collins, he can coach his butt off. Because last night they just didn't have it. They were missing everything from the field, turnovers, mistakes. Couldn't keep the quick guards, quick forwards from Chicago State in front of them. Absolutely great coaching job. Because Northwestern has been, that's like, they made the tournament, is it 3 times in the last 5 years? Dude, Northwestern had not made the NCAA tournament in almost 20 something years. And Chris Collins more than likely is going to make it again this year. So, hey. Hey guys, look, I've been begging Beatrice to let me combine high school recruiting, high school basketball recruiting with my football duties. So pray that he allows me to do that next year. Because I would love, because basketball is much easier. You're talking about 5 to 7 kids per cycle, really, that a coach is in on. Lucky Lefty podcast, we spin it different. Michael Ruskinoff, thank you for the get to the bag question. At the end of the show, go back about 15 minutes. I gave 3 names that you could lock into possibly, along with some others that would probably be interviewed for the strength and conditioning coach. Let's go. Get to the bag right here, Lucky Lefty podcast. CB Nation, presented by It's the T. Let's go. First section, we talked about all the players that have opted out of the bowl game, congratulated them on all of their success in Notre Dame, uh, bid them farewell as they venture into the next stage of their careers, and hopefully all of their NFL dreams come true. We talked about those that were retained or came back, Howard Cross, Riley Mills, Jack Kaiser, and what they mean to the defense. And then we talked about Jamal Banks coming in for a visit, 6'4", 205, big body receiver. Man, great production in the red zone in 2022 with Sam Hartman as his quarterback. If he can bring that along with Jaden Greathouse, you're talking about depth, the wide receiver room after panic just about 2 weeks ago. Now, woo, we all can sit back and take a nice deep breath, exhale, because from a coaching standpoint and a talent standpoint and a production standpoint, that room is far more attractive than it was towards the end of the season. NC Notre Dame fan, thank you for your question. My question, Sean, is who will be the starting running back, Love or Price? I mean, I guess that depends on who gets the first snap of the game. Jeremiah Love was ahead of Jadarian Price most of the year, got more carries. So I would expect that Jeremiah Love would be 1A and Jadarian Price would be 1B. And that's just me going based on how things transpired in 2023. But let's watch the bowl game. Because the bowl game could be a sneak peek into that rotation. Right. Evan Ford is still with the program. Javon Payne is still with the program. And then you have Keedron Young and Aeneas Williams coming in as well. So it's a loaded running back room. Linebacker would be my first position to watch in the spring. Running back might be, no, offensive line would be second, and then running back. Wide receiver, I won't be watching. I mean, that's my assignment, so I'll be watching it. But the intrigue won't be the same. It just won't, because I feel like, yeah, I want to see Michael Gilbert and Cam Williams and Logan Sadate. Of course, I want to see KK, but I get to see KK in the bowl game. But most of the guys are finished products. The guys that are coming over via the portal, I already know Jaden Greathouse is going to be great, in my opinion. So it's not as much intrigue. That's just kind of like, okay, let's see where things stand. Intrigue is the battles on the offensive line, specifically at the tackle. And then, like I said, the linebackers and watching those young guys run around like crazy. Appreciate you, NC Notre Dame fan. Andre Neely, what do you think, Sean? Been a lot of moving parts. I think Notre Dame has recovered nicely. I think they really have, right? And I still think the most important hire is going to be the strength and conditioning coach, because you have freshmen and sophomores with critical seasons, and now you're setting the tone for those early guys coming in: Sean Sevillano, Cam Williams, KVA, CJ Carr, getting them ready. So it's going to be a pivotal offseason for strength and conditioning for a lot of the young guys. So for me, that's still the most pivotal hire, most important hire. And then, it's just one of those off seasons where, heck, it's a lot of promise. And let's see if it manifests itself. So I'm feeling good. How are you guys feeling about what's been going on and all the moving parts inside the program? I'm feeling good, Andre. I'm feeling good. I really am. Josh Buffo, the motivational business banker. Thank you for your question. With Kaiser coming back, what is the worst thing Golden and Freedom could do with the linebacker core? What do you want to see happen versus not happen? As I said before, I don't want to see Kaiser playing middle linebacker. I want to see him at Rover and possibly sharing snaps um, with a Jalen Sneed, right? And then Jalen Sneed might, in different NASCAR packages, pass rush packages, come off the edge of Viper and maybe move Josh Burnham over to the other side in passing situations to kind of get your speed, or you can just stick with RJ Open because, like I said, he's very twitchy at that big end, or maybe you can move RJ Open inside and pair him with a Riley Mills or pair him with a Howard Cross and get more pass rush and more flexibility to run stunts in those situations. It's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do, but I do not want to see the young linebackers put behind Jack Kaiser. If he can be support and be in the mix, at the rover position or the weak side, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that because his leadership is going to be needed. His leadership is going to be needed. But Drake Bowen needs the keys at middle linebacker, in my opinion. Give him the keys, man. Or if KVA is good enough off the bat, between those two, give him the keys. Adam Ziliak, thank you for your GTP question. Who starts at left tackle for the bowl game? It's going to be very interesting, man. It's going to be very interesting. I would venture to say that, let me think about this for a second. Michael Carmody, see, let me start off with this. Michael Carmody transferring was absolutely huge, but it bodes well for the young talent at the position. Because from a veteran standpoint, Carmody, if you remember, once Blake Fisher got hurt, Carmody was the next guy up at tackle. Most people don't even remember this. Blake Fisher got hurt, Carmody was the next guy. And then when Carmody didn't pan out, then Joe Alt was the next guy in and solidified that left tackle position. And I said this the other day, right? We were talking about the program at large. And I said, the reason, if we're being honest, the reason why Notre Dame fans are comfortable going to the portal at quarterback is because Notre Dame does not have a recent history of evaluating, recruiting, and coaching and developing the position of quarterback. That's a fact. So now, as fans, heck, maybe even within the program, you feel a lot more open to Notre Dame going in to the portal to find a quarterback. I don't see the same urgency with no returning tackles and nothing but youngsters in the depth chart. I don't see the same urgency to go to the transfer portal for a tackle. Notre Dame fans, if they did go and get a veteran tackle, Notre Dame fans would probably be like, okay, that's what's up. But Notre Dame fans are maybe a little bit nervous, not knowing how the Sun Bowl and how next year is going to play out at the tackle position. But it's funny because Notre Dame fans don't have the same urgency to go get a tackle. You know why? Because Notre Dame has shown, forget recent history, this is like a decade or more history of being able to evaluate. And this is with multiple offensive line coaches being able to evaluate, recruit, coach, and develop the offensive line position. And you have far more confidence in Joe Rudolph and what he has in that room than Gino Gaduli and what he has. And that's a fact. So, man, we'll see. I think Sullivan Absher is definitely going to get a shot at tackle. Um, Amir Williams, Amir Wagner could be one of your starting tackles. Personally, I've heard some good things about Chris Terry, 6'5", 316, the kid from Illinois. He was really like a late addition to the 23 class, decommitted from Wisconsin late, jumped into the Notre Dame class. Heard good things about him. Tosh Baker, he's been here long enough to make an impact. Redshirt junior. Uh, so I think between Sullivan Absher, Emil Wagner, Charles Jagasaw is working in tackle. I don't know if he's going to start in the bowl game. So if I had to bet, I would say Emil Wagner, Sullivan Absher get the starts. Uh, Tosh Baker is the veteran that could probably sneak in there. Ty Chan came in as a tackle, but right now he's working inside. So we'll see. We'll see. But I think that's how it plays out. And I think that's how it's going to play out in the spring. Like Emil Wagner can play the position. The only concern with Emil Wagner is his weight. And that strength and conditioning coach, like I said, Emil Wagner is a young man where that strength and conditioning coach is going to be very important for his next step and his development because this is his opportunity. This is his opportunity, man. This is his opportunity. So, yeah, thank you for that question, Adam. Great question. Richard Powell, great house. He would be challenged and rise to the occasion. Richard Powell saying he thinks Jaden Greathouse is going to be the best player in 2024. Andrew Gilmore, Riley Leonard. Oh, this goes back to our other poll question. Riley Leonard needs to be the best player on the road at A&M. 2 new tackles, rowdy atmosphere, big D line. Elko can coach D. I don't know if that D line is going to be as big. They lost a lot off of that D line. So we'll see how they recover. And they lost their D line coach, who went to Syracuse as a defensive coordinator. That's huge because he was the main one getting those big guys to come to Texas A&M. But I do like Mike Elko's hires to replace the coaches that he lost. So, point taken. Josh Bofo again. You're hearing big name flips at Notre Dame. Not really. Not really. The 2 flips. I know people asked about John Mitchell, that possibility. I don't think it happens. Justin Scott's definitely not a possibility anymore. Caleb Beasley, I think, is locked in to Tennessee. And Caleb Beasley was really the only possibility out of those guys. And I think that ship has sailed. But who knows, man? They got in on Kenny Minchie late. Who knows? If I Christian Gray, if I had to bet money, I'm not a betting man, but if I had to bet money, Christian Gray. For your other question, Andrew Gilmore, who is their true downfield threat? I think they need one more guy who can beat you deep. Well, I mean, heck, Faison has shown that he's a downfield threat. Jordan Faison, Chris Mitchell is a downfield threat, and he's a great run after the catch threat as well. Great after the catch threat. And Cam Williams, in my opinion, is a downfield threat as well. Those are 3 off top. Logan Sadate. It's funny because Carson Hobbs was like, yo, he kind of mentioned in that clip that Ryan Roberts put up when they were debating who was the fastest guy in the 24 class. And Logan Sadate has, man, I think some people had him at like 4.31 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And that's pretty fast. That's pretty fast. So that would qualify him as a downfield threat. But Carson Hobbs was like, dude, there's no competition where you play. You just running by cats. Like, let me see you run by cats or run by me when we get on campus. So the challenge has been laid down by Carson Hobbs. But, you know, Yeah. If I know he runs like a 4.3 something. I don't know if it's a 4.31. Um, but yeah, he's pretty fast. He's pretty fast. And for um, Carson Hobbs jokingly to say, yeah, a lot of guys have that track speed. At least he acknowledged that his teammate was pretty fast. Now we want to see if it translates to the football field. Yeah, that's true. They do have some down the field threats. Cooper Flanagan, in my opinion, will be a downfield threat. Mitchell Evans, I think he's going to come back healthy. I think he's going to continue to be a downfield threat. And then watch Eli Rarely get loose as well. Michael Parks, Stovall, Maurice Stovall. Stovall, I think, was a little bit bigger, right? Stovall was like 6'5", a little bit more weight to him. Let me confirm that. That's what my eyes remember about Maurice Stovall at Notre Dame. Maurice Stovall, cup of tea in the NFL. With the Buccaneers. Good old 21. Yeah, yeah. He was 6'5", 215. 10 pounds. It is what it is. Could be. But as far as red zone, if that's your comp with him being a red zone guy for Notre Dame, I can see that. I can see that. Ed 3, I apologize because I didn't see you in the chat yesterday. We did get to your super chat on yesterday's show. We missed it on Tuesday's show. I just want you to know. So if you watch yesterday's show, we did get to the super chat that we missed on Tuesday. Just want to acknowledge that. Okay, cool. I'm glad you heard it. I'm glad you heard it. Yeah, he was 6'5", like 210, 215 in his time in Notre Dame. So 6'4", 205. I mean, similar body types. Similar body types. Similar body types. Let's see. Did you guys put up any more questions? LL poll question of the day. Let's see if more votes have been coming in. Let me refresh it for a moment once again. Who will be the best player for the Fighting Irish in 2024? Yeah, more votes are coming in even while we're doing the show. Jeremiah Love drops to 41%. Ben Morrison is at 24%. Xavier Watts is at 12. Riley Leonard picked up another percentage at 18%. He's still running third behind Benjamin Morrison and Jeremiah Love, who's really running away with the voting. And then the second poll question of the day, or LL question of the day, does Riley Leonard need to be the best player on the Notre Dame squad for them to advance to the playoffs and then advance in the playoffs? Does Riley Leonard need to be the best player on the team? A lot of people say they believe so. So we'll see. We'll see. Hey guys, I got something special for you, man. As I get ready to close the show out, thank you for your GTB questions. Thank you for tapping in with us. Something special, man. Something funny. Check this out. Uh, my girl Asia Wilson, she joined Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes on All the Smoke, and I'm gonna kind of parlay this into the transfer portal talk.
Damage could you have done in college with the NIL?
What?
Huh.
What?
Talking about Rolls Royce.
What? Chinchilla, I'm showing up to the game. I'm showing up to the game.
Like Frank
drippy.
Lucas, huh?
What? With a cane, hat cocked to the side. Like, oh no, I'm here. And at the end of the game, if y'all want me to sign something, it's $100 out back.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
full
talk that shit.
hustle. Like, what? They'll be like, nah, Asia, I'm kicking out the door. Like,
Yeah,
what? But
I love it.
yeah,
You
I would
broke
have.
the bank.
God knew who to give that to. Cause what?
Yeah.
What kind of
Yo, that's funny because the last thing she said is God knew. God knew who not to give that to. And I find that so funny because I think I've told this story in the show before, man. I come from a musical family, right? And literally every kid in the family, right? I have two brothers, two sisters, twin sisters. And every kid in the family either plays an instrument, sings, or acts. Everybody had talent from the arts given to them by God. Everybody, except who? This dude right here. This dude right here. I'm like, yo, what did I do? What in the world did I do in my mother's womb to miss out when God was giving out talents to the Davis children? Where did I mess up? Right? Where did I mess up? And then it skipped me because my daughter she can sing, she can dance, she can play instruments, she can write, she can produce, she does everything. So basically, what he took from me and held back from me, he was like, don't worry about it. I'll just go ahead and give it to your daughter. And my wife was a dancer in high school and college and a little bit professionally uh, right before we got married. So, she has something to do with that as well. But man, it's so funny. And because this is funny, true story. I feel like Asia Wilson because when she said God knew he was doing, I say the exact same thing. The Lord knows with all of the work that I've been able to do with young children over the years um, in the community and through ministry, Lord knows if I had musical talent, right, and could produce and go on tour and make money every night, talking about 2,500 a night on tour, man, I would be nowhere near church. I'm gonna keep it funky. I'm gonna keep it funky, man. I would be booking tour dates. I would be booking shows, right? Bars. Man, wherever I could get some cash and hustle. I'm like Asia Wilson. The hustle would be real. What? Chinchilla, drippy. Say what? God knew. God knew. Don't do this. And I wish God knew, honestly, that the transfer portal was going to turn out to be like this. Honestly, the transfer portal being a disarray, in my opinion, guys, has actually benefited Notre Dame. I truly believe that. I believe the more kids that have jumped into the portal, I believe it's probably pushed some people down to Notre Dame or certain guys to Notre Dame that might have been targeted by some other programs. I actually think this has benefited. Riley Leonard was just like a special case, right? Grandfather played at Notre Dame, relationship to Notre Dame type of kid, Catholic kid. It was set up, right? Loves Notre Dame. It was almost set up perfectly for him. But I think kids like Bo Collins, Chris Mitchell, in a normal year with less guys in the portal, possibly could have been more competition for their services. So with more kids jumping in the portal, I think Notre Dame, I don't even know if Josh Kelly comes on a visit if there was more of a shortage at the wide receiver position. I think Jamal Banks, with the connection to Sam Hartman and having a chance to talk to Sam Hartman, yeah, there's a chance he still would have come. But I actually think the opportunities that Notre Dame has gotten via the portal exist because so many, like, dude, you see the Peyton kid, the defensive end from Florida State jumping in. after having a good season. Like, dude, you're leaving Florida State. Johnson, the starting middle linebacker who started all year for Georgia, got injured only to see freshman CJ Allen come in and play absolutely amazing as a true freshman. I mentioned it. They talked to Kirby Smart in the middle of the SEC championship game. He's like, yo, I'm just trying to coach my two freshman linebackers that are like playing their tails off, trying to hang in there. But those freshman linebackers played so well that Jamon Dumas Johnson hopped into the portal. And he was the most important. When he got hurt, most people were like, oh man, this Georgia defense is really going to suffer, getting people lined up. He's like Georgia's J.D. Bertrand. Like, they're really going to suffer because the only thing behind him are freshmen. And C.J. Allen went out, had a huge game against Missouri. And then he had a huge game against, if I'm not mistaken, Ole Miss. And it's like, yo, you have a kid like that put forth a performance. And Georgia, usually Georgia wins championships and then, sees their top wide receivers or their top players go find NIL money elsewhere. But, for a guy that was pretty much the captain of your defense and he was having a fabulous season. He was having a fabulous season before he got injured. And it wasn't like it was a catastrophic injury. He injured his, if I'm not mistaken, his bicep. And he was trying to play in the SEC championship game and pretty much said he was going to play if they made it to the college football playoff. But 2 hours ago, this young man just hopped into the portal, man. That's crazy. We're talking about the captain of their defense. Let me look at the game log because right here it says he had 34 tackles, 3.5 sacks this year. He only played 5 games this year. He played 5 games this year. He got hurt on November the 4th at the end of that Missouri game. CJ Allen came in there. And from that point on, CJ Allen he did his thing. So he played 5 games, 7 tackles per game, 3.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. That's pretty impressive. And he was a captain, and he's in the portal, man. And the gluttony of wide receivers in the portal. And we talked about this. There was a reason Malik Murphy didn't leave, and he didn't want to leave. But the way the rules are set up and the timing of the portal, he has to jump into the portal to snatch one of these spots, right? Because no one's going to wait on him. He has to jump into the portal. He wants to play in a championship game. So now if Quinn Ewers gets hurt, and Quinn Ewers more than likely is coming back, so there was no option. Malik Murphy was either going to be a backup again, right? Or possibly third string with Arch Manning there as well. He had no choice, man. And I wouldn't want to leave Steve Sarkisian. Heck no. I don't want to leave Steve Sarkisian if I'm Malik Murphy. But hey, honestly, now this is debatable. I'm going to keep it all the way funky. If Malik Murphy had been in the transfer portal, forget all the grad transfer, just all things being equal. If Malik Murphy had been in the transfer portal at the same time as Riley Leonard, who would have wanted Malik Murphy over Riley Leonard? I just want to see if there's anybody out there. Because I think this young man has a lot of potential. And knowing that he has the foundation of Steve Sarkisian at the position, he's rumored to, I know he's looking at Georgia. I believe he's looking at South Carolina. Syracuse is doing a great job with their new coaching staff. Their head coach came from the Georgia staff. Their defense coordinator came from Texas A&M as the D-line coach. They're putting together a hell of a staff, and they're closing on the 24 recruiting class and the transfer portal. Great job. Great job. But yo, he got them what 3 big wins this year, and he can't stay through the playoffs because of the transfer portal. When it opens and how things are going to go, he has to give himself the best opportunity to go out there and find a spot where he can be a starter for 2 years and get to the NFL. And that's the same decision, honestly, ladies and gentlemen. Even though um, he's starting the Sun Bowl, that's the conversation, same conversation that needs to be had with Steve Angeli and his family. They have to sit down after the bowl game and have an honest conversation. I'm not starting next year. This is my 3rd year. I'm on track to get my degree. What should I do? If I really want to give myself a chance to play in the NFL, I might have to leave Notre Dame because I'm not starting next year. And I know that's not the attitude that you would want anybody to have. You want him to feel like he can compete and he's ahead of Riley Leonard, knowing the offense and all of that stuff. But yo, oh, I'm sorry. Sid Irish, Fran Brown. He was the defensive back coach at Georgia. Fran Brown, fantastic coach. Like his list of players that he's put in the NFL and that defensive backfield from Georgia. He's one of the best recruiters. The recruiting class, the safety position led by DeMello Jones and others in that Georgia class is absolutely phenomenal. The man can recruit. The man can coach. He can develop. Will he be a good head coach? I don't know. He's put together a hell of a staff in a short time, and they have done a great job flipping some kids in the 24 class and also getting some kids in the transfer portal in just a short time. And it's the ACC. So a school like Syracuse, who's shown that they can compete, yo, they get enough transfers, they could possibly be next year's Louisville, especially if they get the right quarterback. So they land Malik Murphy. And who knows? He brings a couple of wide receivers with him. And the next thing you know, man, they're cooking with grease up there at the dome. They're cooking with grease. Wow. A lot of you guys are saying Murphy. Leonard has actually played in real games. I would actually disagree with that. Malik Murphy literally won 3 big conference games. Those conference games were huge while Quinn Ewers was out, right? Beat Kansas. I think he beat Kansas State. Those teams were ranked. And I think it was one more game. If you say Riley Leonard played more big games, then okay. But to say Malik Murphy didn't play in actual big games, that's a little bit that's misleading. It's a little misleading. But yeah, this portal is crazy. But I think the current condition of the portal, if it plays out for another year or two, is actually going to benefit Notre Dame. Because I think they're actually going to be able to get guys in and possibly have a chance at landing guys with commitments in the transfer portal that otherwise, with less players in the portal, probably would have ended up going to different schools. And the competition would have been a little bit more fierce, in my opinion. So, as much as Jack Swarbrick seemingly hurt Notre Dame by kind of taking a back seat with NIL and the transfer portal, and Notre Dame administration not caving the way fans would like them to, things might be coming to Notre Dame's doorstep the way things are set up. No, I didn't say, by no means did I say it compared. I'm just saying your statement was he hasn't played in actual big games, and that statement within itself was a bit misleading. You know what? I'm going to ask Malik that question tomorrow. He might agree with you, Sid Irish. He might agree with you. I'll play that clip of Asia Wilson for him tomorrow and see what he thinks. Uh, yeah, it's interesting. A lot of you guys are saying that you would have Murphy. That's interesting. His arm accuracy. See, this is where the coaching comes into play because I think his biggest issue is footwork. Like if you go watch the first half, the first 3 quarters against Notre Dame, yeah, I understand. He had one receiver that could really get off bump and run. We understand all that. But just watch his footwork. To me, this is where Gino Guidugli comes in. This is where Jared Parker comes in, right? Because he's not polished as a passer. Highest percentage in the season in 2022 at 63%. It's not bad. It's not, I mean, heck. I would take Riley Leonard over JJ McCarthy. Me personally. That's me personally. I think he's a better pros prospect than JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy in the middle of the season led the Heisman race, which we said on this show was laughable because we told you like JJ McCarthy's not that good. He's just not that good. But Brian J. Irishman, appreciate the question. He has good arm strength, but his accuracy is connected to his feet. And Malik has talked about that a lot. Like the rhythm of the quarterback is all about your feet, your footwork, your drop back, rhythm, hitting your back foot, going through your progressions as you drop back. And then when you hit your back foot, knowing where you want to go. And if that's not open, immediately being able to switch with your footwork and get the ball to where it needs to go. So his accuracy, in my opinion, is tied into his footwork kind of being all over the place in a sense, right? But he's athletic, right? Sometimes it's difficult for really athletic quarterbacks to kind of hone in on their footwork and get it very consistent and get a consistent drop back so their accuracy can become even more consistent. Justin Fields went through it at Ohio State. He's still dealing with it. Hey, Lord knows he doesn't have any coaching. I think Caleb Williams, as talented as he is, deals with it. The consistency in his drop back. Drake May is a lot smoother in his drop back, in my opinion. Probably has the more consistent drop back, if we're being honest. It's just the burden of being extremely athletic, right? It's almost like the burden of being a point guard and being extremely fast. Like, when do you slow down? Like, because you're extremely fast with and without the ball. And you always want to go 100 miles per hour. But as a point guard, you just can't. You have to have the moxie and know when to push the pace, when to slow down, when to use your speed. And it's kind of like the gift and curse of having that athleticism and having that ability. And it's the same thing with Riley Leonard. He has so much athletic ability that honing it in and allowing it to work for him with his accuracy is still a task and a work in progress. Like I said, Gino Guidugli, heck, I've seen improvement in Steve Angeli personally. I hope to see improvement in the accuracy of Riley Leonard. Let's see. Yeah, we got to the question of the day. We absolutely got to the question of the day. If you're talking about the poll question, we talked about that in the first half of the show. We absolutely. And then we expanded on that conversation and talked about whether or not Riley Mills needed to, Riley Mills. I keep saying Riley Mills. Riley Leonard needs to be the best player in 2024 for Notre Dame to get to the playoffs and advance in the playoffs. So, Evan, we talked about that at the beginning of the show. Thank you for the comment and question. The defense, now just getting Riley Mills, Howard Cross, and Jack Kaiser coming back. I put Xavier Watts at about 65-35 to come back, in my opinion. So they're going to have a lot of experience on a defense that's going to be more talented and more athletic, but I expected it to be a little bit inexperienced. But now with that experience coming back, the sky's the limit for the Notre Dame defense, in my opinion. Lucky Lefty podcast, man. Great show, guys. You guys helped me host. You were my co-host tonight. You're the best co-host in the business. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget Apple Podcast, Spotify, Audio Edibles each and every day. Lock in with us. And then go to YouTube. Subscribe, share, hit the like button. Man, we appreciate all you guys. You guys are the best fan base in the land. You make Lucky Lefty what it is. We love, adore, and appreciate you, man. You know what time it is.
Petticoat, Petticoat Junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing. Are you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's pettiest story? Petty Junction.
Petty Junction, Petty Stories of the Day brought to you by ONORA Whiskey at NORAWhiskey.com. That premium American whiskey at NORAWhiskey.com. I got to put Unc Shannon Sharp on the Petty train. I don't know if you guys watched his podcast with Chad Ochocinco called Nightcap. Every night, I think at 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock Central, I think it's 11 o'clock Eastern. They are some plum fools, man. And they were talking about their preference in women. And Unc said, I prefer mine to be about 215, 225. And Ocho was like, say what, Unc? He's like, yeah. I prefer, my preference is about for them to be about 205, 215. And he said, man, I don't do that, lifting, if there are children listening, please escort them out the room, right? Because this is the petty part. And, if you got children in the room, get them out the room right now. Because I'm not about to curse or be too explicit, but, to get the story across is something I don't want them to hear. And Unc says, yeah, man. He said, but what I don't do that both legs in the air, man. I can only do one leg at a time. And I was like, Unc, that's mad petty, bro. Like, what are you saying? What are you trying to say? And he was like, man, this ain't lifting weights, man. He's like, that's totally different. And I'm sorry. It was so funny to me, but it was mad petty to me. Because I'm like, what are you saying? Like, if that's your preference, why do you get the preference and then say, well, man, I got limitations on the preference? Like, dude, you see how big you are? Man, your sport coats don't even fit. By the way, you need to take care of that. You need to talk to your tailor, tell him to give you an extra ½ inch. You know what I'm saying? So the coats can button up a little bit better, instead of them being super tight. I know you got the little V going on as an athlete, but come on, Unc, you got enough money. Man, have your tailor take care of you. But other than that, for him to, give love to the 205 young ladies out there, but then say, I got limitations with you now. I'm like, Unc, for you to go there and then put limitations on there, come on, Unc. But it's funny. It was hilarious. The whole entire conversation, check it out, man. We get big ups to all the podcasts that are incredible. And Nightcap with Unc Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco, absolutely. I saw somebody ask if I was going to put the red shoe woman on the petty train. I did that yesterday. Kimberly Martin, yeah, I put on the petty train yesterday. No. Today, last but not least, the Indiana Pacers, Rick Carlisle, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. All of you all, come get your ticket punched for the petty train. Man, are you kidding me? First of all, shout out to Giannis for scoring his career high against the Indiana Pacers last night. He dropped 64, and the Bucks needed all 64 to come away with that win. He dropped 64. The Pacers at the end of the game steal the game ball. Now, this comes after a hard foul in the fourth quarter where the Pacers literally hog-tied Giannis as he went to the bucket around his neck and slung him down. And Giannis, his younger brother, had to be held back. So now that just sets the table, right? So that turns into a melee in the second half of the game. Bobby Portis wants to go after Isaiah Jackson, who was the culprit with the foul. And then they finally play basketball. Giannis dropped 64. And Oscar Tshiebwe, who got a free throw for his first NBA point at the end of the game, was the excuse for why the Indiana Pacers took the game ball. On the road, mind you. They weren't home. They were on the road. They stole the game ball when the buzzer went off and gave it to Oscar Tshiebwe, rookie, for hitting one free throw. We're giving game balls out for hitting a free throw? Not for your first bucket, not for your first alley-oop, your first dunk, your first free throw. And Rick Carlisle, knowing the situation, you knew Giannis had 64 points, man. You, your staff, and the players, you knew darn well Giannis had 64 points. And you go to the post game and have the nerve to say, oh, it's a misunderstanding with the game ball. What was the misunderstanding? Because misunderstanding means that you're unaware of certain aspects that possibly led to you making the mistake of taking the game ball. There was no misunderstanding by you, your staff, and the players. You knew Giannis had just dropped 64 on you. You knew that. You knew what he had just done to your team. You were being petty because of the melee. You were being petty because after the melee, he dropped that 6-4 on you, and you didn't like it. So you tried to use Oscar Tshiebwe as the excuse on the road for why you, your staff, and the rest of the Pacers stole the ball. Giannis, fam, stop embarrassing yourself. You found out that they took the ball. So you were about to run to confront them in the tunnel? My dude, it's not that serious. That's what you have Milwaukee Bucks staff for. Send the staffers over there to the locker room and say, can we please have the ball? Come on, man. What are we doing? An absolute embarrassing situation where everyone involved needs their ticket punched to the petty train. Great show, guys. We see you tomorrow morning. Have a great evening. Most of all, you have to make sure that you spin it different. You guys are the best.